built up. I do want to play devil's advocate for these walkaway numbers. And look, I'll be honest. I've talked to Howie enough over the years, and I think I'm above board. I think he's the best GM in the NFL. And in some ways, I've been schooled on the way he does business. And sometimes that tints me towards, well, Howie knows what he's doing. So I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. But these walkaway numbers, John, and evidently it was 25 ish for Jaelan Phillips. They were in Trey Hendrickson as well, who went above 25. So they kind of budgeted right around 25. What's the difference between 25 and 28, 25 and 30? I mean, you can make an argument. Again, devil's advocate here. You can make an argument. That's the penalty of letting somebody get to the open market if it's going to go to 30. But, and he's, look, I'm with you. Jaelan Phillips at 30 million. I want to do that in thought and practice in the laboratory, but this is real life, and that's the market. If you want that player, that's where you got to go.
No, I get that. I mean, Jaelan Phillips isn't a $30 million a year player, and maybe you could have made that trade off this offseason. But what about the offseason? What about 2027? Like, I mean, does it preclude you from maybe getting a more impactful edge rusher next year, as opposed to this year, even when there didn't seem to be a whole lot of good pass rushers out there? I mean, it's a little bit like the emergency of the now can cloud us from being more flexible and keeping the window open for longer. I mean, I like Jaelan Phillips as a player, but I don't know that he's your number one and far and away your number one edge rusher on a team with Super Bowl aspirations. He just, he wasn't as impactful as that type of player to be one of the highest paid one of the highest paid edge rushers in the NFL. And so, does that mean Howie can kind of sprinkle some more money at some more positions and bring more depth to the roster with that extra 5-7 million, whatever the walkaway number was going to be? I would rather him kind of spread that money out and give you the roster flexibility to maybe add somebody more impactful at the edge, whether it's through a trade or whether it's next off season when I don't know what the edge rusher or free agent market looks like next year, but maybe there's more high end talent that'll come around next year and you can kind of make do at edge rusher with another addition here. Maybe a greener trade is exactly, what the doctor ordered here. And then we're feeling a lot better about Jaelan Phillips moving on. We don't see the whole picture just yet. And so that's why I can't really say for sure that it was the wrong thing to not bridge that $5 million a year gap as you're talking about. I will agree with you though, that I think Howie Roseman's policy of not engaging in contract extensions with players while the season is going on, while they're under contract, is something he may need to revisit, especially for a player like Jaelan Phillips. These guys know it's a business. I think he's a little concerned that they're going to take it all really personally and go, he likes him better than me. Why is he giving him an extension?
Yeah.
It's the reality of the business, So I feel like maybe you could have gotten Phillips at your $24 million number, $25 million number if you'd done something in week 15 this past season, but he didn't do that.
Yeah. John, what do you think the biggest loss is, man? They lost a starter on each level of the defense. Phillips, obviously, at the front. They had Nakobe Dean at linebacker and Reed Blankenship at safety. Kind of, not as much Phillips, but some integral pieces there. What's the biggest loss for this team?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And it's because I think if you're looking at who's the most talented player that they lost, it's probably Phillips. You'd certainly put Dean second in that mix, and you could make the argument that Dean is a more talented, more impactful player than Jaelan Phillips. I think they're both pretty close, and Reed Blankenship would be the number 3 by far. But I also think it may hurt the most to lose Blankenship because, like you guys were talking about before I came on, there really isn't a good safety plan in place. I mean, maybe Michael Carter shifts to safety, right. and because you've got Jonathan Jones in the house, and you signed Reek to an extension to a contract to a 1-year deal. So Tariq Woolen can be in here as the number 2 cornerback, and you're not as worried about shifting guys around. And maybe Cooper plays a little safety if they're in base or something like that. Maybe you can get by and figure something like that out. But without Reed Blankenship there's a lot more question marks at safety. And with Nakobe Dean leaving, that was the plan for Nakobe Dean to leave, because you drafted Jahad Campbell with the express idea that Nakobe leaves in free agency and you've got a high-end replacement right there for him. And we saw last year when Campbell was on the field, when Dean was out, he can be a really good player. Even as a rookie, he was making an impact. And I wish he didn't have this shoulder injury that you could go through a whole offseason of OTAs and be with the team. And I mean, he'll be with them, but be on the field, taking part and everything. But it's good that he got on the field last year. And that was a good experience for him. So I don't think the loss of Nakobe Dean will hurt as much as maybe the loss of Reed Blankenship from safety. And I don't know that Blankenship had a great season last year, but he just gives you that floor, that higher floor than they have right now. Overall, though, probably it's I say all that, and it's probably losing Jaelan Phillips on the edge. He really did make a difference for their pass rush game when he came on board. And without knowing exactly how they're going to get another number one edge rusher, it's a little up in the air. I do think that they could use a first round pick on an edge rusher. I agree with you. I think it should probably be on the offensive line to get some depth there. But if there's a guy they love who, and the last couple of drafts, it's worked out really well. The guys have fallen to where the Eagles are, and Howie will move up and grab somebody if there's somebody he wants to target at edge. And I don't know who that person would be off the top of my head, but you could replace Jaelan Phillips that way potentially if it's an impact first round edge rusher. So it's probably Phillips and Blankenship then Dean at this point for me in the order of the guys they're going to miss the most.
You mentioned a little bit about Cooper potentially playing safety and base. If Reek Woolen can hold up and play 3 downs on the outside, it would make a lot of sense. What about Cooper DeJean full time at safety and Michael Carter in the slot?
I don't love that. I wouldn't be opposed to trying it out, like in training camp and stuff, but he's not going to play those guys in any, exhibition games or anything like that. But he's such an elite player at nickel, at the nickel spot. And I don't think the Eagles want to lose that versatility with him. Now, if you tell me that Cooper DeJean can turn into a Brian Dawkins type, weapon X at the safety position, all right, well then maybe you can do that. Maybe you can put Carter in the slot. And if DeJean shows that he wants to do that, he wants to be that guy that and that he can still be
his agent probably won't.
Yeah, right. You get paid more as a cornerback. Even
I don't think his agent will be too happy.
Yeah. So in that way, like the Eagles would have to make it worth his while, probably financially, in order to have when his contract renewal extension comes up. But I think it's one of those things. It's a risk. It's a roll of the dice to take somebody away from a spot where they make such an impact and they're so good, and to put them someplace else. It's kind of like in baseball when, geez, we're short an outfielder. Well, which one of our infielders can we throw out there and play left field? Sometimes that works out. Sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times it doesn't.